It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'll be your host this morning. Kind of interesting as we move forward day by day. I think it's at this point almost apparent stark relief that we are consistently sitting in a position of the unraveling and the collapse of the America that we know. And the reason I say that is because the idea of the America that we know is almost no longer visible to us. We're going to talk about that this morning. We're also going to talk about, in our first segment, the White House and how they are telegraphing the president's treason scheduled for 2014. When I say that, I'm referencing the fact that the president is already highlighting the executive actions that he intends to take, which the arguments out there, of course, are, well, you know, he's not the only president to do executive actions, and he hasn't done as many as other presidents. I understand that. But that argument holds no water when we compare the content of his executive actions to the content of prior presidents. And that makes a big difference. See, it's not how many, it's what they contain that matters. It's not a numbers game. You know, if you were to sit and look at a baseball game and say every batter who stepped up hit the ball, what would really matter is how many runs they generated, not how many times they actually hit the ball. If everybody hits just a single, it doesn't really make much difference. But if every one of those at-batters hits a triple or a home run, it matters a lot. See, the problem that we have is that, for all intents and purposes, the way that our system is operating right now, there's no one in control. Everything is a lawless endeavor. And that's a problem. Because we don't have, at this stage in the game, anybody standing up for the defense of the nation. Our second topic is going to be the DHS license database. Now, I talked on this the other day, and we're going to hit on it again, because I got to tell you, folks, the issue of data is what is so critically important here to these people. It's more than just the function of having the information. It's what they can do with it and how they utilize it. And by the way, government's not alone in this. I posted up on americasvoicenow.org and our Facebook page at facebook.com/America's Voice Now, and also up on Patriot FB. I posted up this morning a note. Our children are under attack. It's bad enough that they would attack you, they would attack me, they would pass these unconstitutional pieces of legislation all over the place. It's different when you're attacking the kids. And these attacks are coming from the left, they're coming from education, they're coming from these corporate leeches. All of it is unscrupulous. It is all greedy micro-tyrants of every color, every stripe, every shape, and every size. They don't view them as kids. What they view them as is a resource. Much like when you look at a pond and you're fishing, those fish in that pond, you don't worry about what those individual fish are thinking or feeling. When you're looking out over a field of cattle and you're recognizing that these are my resource to be used to either feed or to milk. They don't take any concern or special interest in what the end result is for that individual child. Much like you don't take an interest in what the end result is for that fish. You intend to put it on a platter. They have no honor. They have no scruples. And this isn't limited to government. They have no interest in your child's future, or opposing their position that they effectively state publicly. And they have no interest in their life and in what occurs or transpires during their life. All they care about is data, more data, more. The premise behind that is that data can be used to manipulate. And that's what's so important. Google is one of the worst offenders in this. But they're only the tip of the iceberg. And they're only one of tens of thousands of agencies of the government itself, and corporate tyrants that seek to leech the information from you so that they can use it to mold and shape you in a manner that benefits them. Just think, Department of Education, selling your children's information to Common Core entities and the parent companies that sponsor and run and own the Common Core curriculum. Teachers' unions. Do teachers' unions really care about your kids? I mean, the individual teachers, I'm sure, do. Because they see them every day. And they see those little faces in front of them. And they recognize, this is a child I like. This is a child I care about individually. But the teachers' unions, they don't. They see your child as a resource. Think about these multinational food companies. You know, the big ones, the Swansons, the Nestles, the ones that are putting the poison into the food that you eat. They manipulate you. They want your data because that teaches them better how to manipulate you. Think about Apple. Think about Microsoft. And the list goes on and on and on. Ad infinitum, ad nauseum. It's shameful. And all of it is used against you. Our third topic is going to be administrative agencies. You know, you've heard me talk about these before, but I cannot strenuously enough emphasize the cancer, the metastatic cancer, the metastasized cancer that they have become in our nation. We're going to talk a little bit about how serious a problem they really are. Because you're not governed by government anymore. You're not governed by Congress. You're governed by tens of thousands of individuals, millions actually. And these people are maggots. I'm going to explain to you why they're maggots when we get to that topic. And fourth, America is unraveling. It's an outstanding article out this morning, and I've posted it up again on all of our locations, and I'll put it in the comments or the body of this particular subject on our YouTube channel. But I got to tell you, where this is headed. This, you know, I think it's important that you understand exactly how fast and how far down the road we've slipped. So we're going to talk a little bit about that because it's time for America and you individually to prepare yourself. The story that's out there articulates the problem very, very clearly. And I encourage you to spend a couple of minutes to read it. I think you'll benefit from it. But after you're done reading it, what I want you to do is spend a little bit of time understanding and contemplating the following two issues. One, what can I do to prepare myself and my family and my community for what's coming? And two, what can I do as an individual to help awaken and encourage and wake up others? All right, so let's jump into our first topic this morning. The issue of the White House and how they are telegraphing their coming treason, because they've flaunted and gotten away with lawlessness up until now. You know, over the course of the last couple of weeks, this discussion about how the president is flaunting this lawless attitude has been growing by leaps and bounds. I'm hearing it in all kinds of media outlets. Even official mainstream Ministry of Propaganda media outlets are talking about it. And I see impotence on the part of those people that are supposed to stop it. I mean, the Congress is fretting and they're wringing their hands. They say, there's nothing we can do. We can limit budgets. We can starve them out financially. And yet, Congress just voted an unlimited blank check for the next 13 months. And they, in addition to that, to make things even worse, they just passed a $1 trillion farm bill that everybody knows is 60% pork. So how is that, Congress, starving out the tyrant? I mean, if you disagree with his policies and what he's doing, then why did you give him a blank check to institute them? The courts cover their mouth, they cover their eyes, and they cover their ears. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. The nation is awash in this betrayal. And it is treason. No one intellectually honest, no one with real concern for the nation's welfare will deny that at this point. What it tells us is that the solution to this is not going to come from those who are guilty of the treason. The solution is going to come from American patriots who are going to have to step up. The question I have for you is, do you count yourself among them? And it matters. The White House is actually characterizing 2014 as the year of action. The year of action. And that's inconceivable to me, that a president would actually openly express the fact that he intends to break the law. And he's touting it. I mean, they actually have a video on the official website for the White House that showcases the planned executive actions in just the first 2 months. And they're pushing the phrases he's used, which should ordinarily be used against him in a trial. America doesn't stand still, and neither will I, says the president. So wherever and whenever I can take steps without legislation to expand opportunities for more American families, that's what I'll do. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not a marketing phrase. That's a threat. It's a declaration. It's a guilty plea. The truth of the matter is, the things that he's passing, the things that, and just that phrase alone, the things that he's passing. Find me some constitutional authority that gives the president the right to pass law. The Constitution expressly prohibits and limits his authority in that regard. It delegates that authority to none other than just Congress. Period. The president can only veto and execute those laws that have been passed by Congress. Those are his only two options. The health care bill, and Obamacare, has has provisions in it that are clearly defined. Even constitutional scholars of his party ideology and his political ideology are stating that what he's doing is illegal. Not one, not three, many. I showed you the statement, or I tried to show you the statement last week by Jonathan Turley about how he was expressing that we are stepping into very dangerous territory here, where a president makes law by fiat declaration. And that's exactly what he's doing. He signed an executive order on February 12th, 2 days before Valentine's Day. And he's requiring that any federal contractors pay their employees a minimum wage of $10.10 an hour. Now, remember something. First and foremost, it's not whether or not you agree or disagree with the principle of minimum wage. It's the fact that he doesn't have the authority to do it. Period. It doesn't matter what the topic is. It doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not. What matters is that he's doing something wrong. He doesn't have the authority to do it. And if you ask an individual who has been admitted multiple murderer, one of the things that comes out quite frequently is that is a fairly common thread that runs through their discussions, or the issue of how did you do this? I mean, how could you possibly commit these crimes? Well, the first one was the hardest one, but after that, they were all pretty much relatively easy. And you see, we've already allowed him to get away with what he's doing. And we're allowing the treason to continue. The truth is that if we do not stop this, if we don't put a halt to these actions, not because we agree or disagree with the content of the action, it's the action itself. We're setting a precedent that will be used not only by this president, but any future president. Well, hey, you didn't stop Obama from doing it. We'll say another president 2 or 3 down the line. And the constitutional courts didn't stop him. So the precedent was set. Therefore, you can't stop me. Is that what we want? Is that what's right for our country? The truth is that we don't really have anybody in position who will do anything about this. The courts are sitting there like the 3 monkeys, pretending it's not happening because they refuse to step in and do their constitutional duty. See, technically the court, including the Supreme Court, don't actually have to wait to stop this. They could stand up and say, Mr. President, we're declaring that what you're doing is illegal and we're ordering you to stop. I don't want to hear that citizens have to file lawsuits and go through an endless routine of lower and appellate and work their way through a court system at great expense to the individual. I mean, I keep hearing arguments from the Congress, well, we don't have standing and, you can file lawsuits. We shouldn't have to file lawsuits. Government's job is to protect us And if government has turned from our protector to our demon, and you as a part of that government refuse to prohibit and stop the activity, then you're as guilty as he who is committing the act. You have the method, the means, and the wherewithal to stop it. And if you refuse, and we understand how and why and where, and we realize that you are the problem, not the solution. Not sure how the average citizen can stop this. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't have the money to fight a federal court case. Where are all the attorneys willing to step up and say, I'll do this pro bono for the benefit of the nation? Well, they're not going to step up. And they're not going to do it pro bono for the benefit of the nation because, quite frankly, they're a part of the problem too. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the DHS license plate database that's being developed and how this will be used in conjunction with all of the other issues, including what I talked about the other day with the way that your social media is being monitored and your emails and everything else, to build enemy databases. You can poo-poo that concept all you want, but the truth of the matter is that it's happening, and it's happening right now. Okay, make sure that you visit our sponsors and assist them where you can by patronizing their facilities, because these are the guys that keep us on the air. You can see our friends over at Mini Mart Express 1 and 2, both in West Plains. Both of them have great drive-thrus. They've got outstanding prices on fountain drinks, and they also have lowest prices on tobacco products that you can find. Make sure that you visit them. One is on 14 and 63, and the other one is right across the street on Porter Wagoner Boulevard, right across the street from the City Park, People's Park. Kind of interesting that it's called that, isn't it? While you're there in town, you can swing by Pizza Hut, which is also on Porter Wagoner Boulevard, and get yourself a great lunch and or dinner. Tuesday night, kids eat free. That would be tonight. Tuesday during the day, it's a $5 reduced lunch, and on Thursdays also. So make sure that you swing in there today if you can and take advantage of that. Visit Jason Henry, law offices up on the square in West Plains, handles federal and state cases. I have spoken to Jason, by the way, about fronting some of these cases, and we're working on a couple of issues, but I can't do it all alone, and nor can one attorney. When you get an opportunity to, if you have a need for his services, give him a call at 417-256-4100. It's 417-256-4100. While you're on the square, you can swing in there and get yourself a great haircut at Wits End Classic Barbershop. They do a great job for $10, and you won't be disappointed. While you're in there, you can swing by the Patriot Cigar and Tobacco Shop as well and get yourself a great cigar or a pipe, a load of pipe, or whatever you want. We're going to take a quick break. Make sure that while you're there, you see Battery Station. They're also right off the square. It's batterystation.com or 417-257-7799. We'll be right back. You know, the president threw out the thing the other day that America doesn't stand still, and neither will I. So I would challenge you as an American to make a determination about what you're going to do. Don't stand still. We've got a couple of opportunities here, not the least of which is you can immediately begin the process of preparing yourself and your family for what pretty much everyone who's honest with themselves and those around them recognizes is coming. It's going to be a serious, serious change in everything that we understand and know about our society. Everything that we know and believe to have been the case with the rule of law, our economy. I don't know how and under what circumstances or where, but I do know that it's coming. Can't tell you what the date or how it's going to happen, or whether it's going to be a crisis of economics or a crisis of international scope, or whether it's going to be a crisis of internal government. I can tell you that this government has been working for a very, very long time to develop the tools and the equipment and the things necessary to build, for all intents and purposes, a list of those people that they perceive to be their enemies. And the Department of Homeland Security has been in the forefront of that since their creation. If you recall, now, the department was created after 9/11 as a result of the perceived need to create an overarching umbrella agency that would be responsible for all of the other agencies and co-coordinate them. And we were told with its creation that we would have things, solved in the line of having these walls broken down between one agency and another so they could transfer information and so forth and so on. Well, of course, we've never seen the beneficial result of that, and partly because, as an example, and a perfect example of it, is what happened up in Boston. I mean, for all the hundreds of billions of dollars that we're spending on national security, we haven't seen even the most remote result. Nothing. We've seen no beneficial results. I mean, we had no more idea about what was going on with the Boston bombing than we do about 9/11. And yet we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars, and we've sacrificed, as a nation, a significant percentage of our privacy, our security. See, because what we're doing is we're trading our personal security as a nation and individuals against a backdrop of a promised security from international terrorism, which, quite frankly, is a phantom. It doesn't exist. It's a chimera. Now, Homeland Security is looking for a vendor. They want to create a smartphone-based national database of vehicle license plates that they can share with law enforcement. And again, as is, typical, what we're looking at is a level of intrusive abuse of your privacy that will be used to build not a national database of vehicles, but a tracking mechanism for individuals that are dissidents. Let's just take that word for a moment and recognize it for what it is. The word dissident is one that has been used by totalitarian governments down through the ages to build and develop and create and engender enemy lists. And this particular government is no different. They want to be able to track the vehicle and the person. And I talked yesterday about the DNA tracking system that they want to implement so that they can find you irrespective of how you travel, where you travel, whether you're on the web, whether you're in physical travel, they want to be able to track everything that you say and do. And ladies and gentlemen, that is Orwellian. Under this program and their proposed software database, which you can bet some treasonous agency or company is going to jump right all over this, and they can. This isn't complicated. They're going to create a database that they're gonna be able to snap a picture of your license plate with a smartphone, and then step back and get a larger picture of the entire vehicle, and then upload that to a database. And that car or vehicle and that license plate will now be on a hot list of target vehicles. Really? Is that what we want? I mean, under whose objective viewpoint is that vehicle a suspect vehicle? You see, it's not objective. That's the problem, because the person holding the camera is not objective. They are subjective. And that means that every cop with an axe to grind, every agent who's got a personal problem with somebody who's dating his old girlfriend will simply snap a picture of that person's vehicle and plate, and suddenly they'll be on the hot list of target vehicles. Don't tell me that won't happen. You're a fool if you believe that. Quote, the system is supposed to be for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement branch of Department of Homeland Security, for the tracking of illegal immigrants, says the national security correspondent. Really? Well, let's see. If we want to start tracking illegal immigrants, and we want to track them on vehicles, why are we giving them driver's licenses? I mean, if we don't give them driver's licenses, that would stop the problem, wouldn't it? This kind of example and excuse is what proves to us that their intentions are not what they claim them to be. Because these people can't even lie well. You know the problem with lying? You have to keep remembering what you lied about. An ICE spokesman comes out and says the database could only be used in conjunction with an ongoing criminal investigation. Yeah, right. That's what you told us about the IRS and all the files they have. That's what you told us about the NSA and all the files they have. That's what you told us about the FBI and all the files they have. But we now know that the FBI and the NSA routinely hand those files over to the DEA and local and state law enforcement. Not for national security, which is the guise under which it was created. So what makes us think we should believe you this time? This guy Green touts that this type of plate system has been in use in the United Kingdom and uses an extensive network of closed-circuit TVs. Quote, it pretty much catches all the movements of cars, people, buses, pretty much anything that moves, at least in the cities. He's openly admitting that they're creating 1984 in 2014. I mean, Orwell can be forgiven for being just 30 years off, right? I mean, that was the only part he was wrong about. The date. But the rest of it, spot on. They say that it will help the agency locate criminal aliens. Stop right there. The Department of Justice has been giving the order to not prosecute criminal aliens. So the lies are just mounting and mounting and mounting. The ACLU's come out and they're concerned about abusive, invasive, and discriminatory tracking. I am too. The problem is the ACLU is, for all intents and purposes, they kind of undermine and cut their own nose to spite their face. Because And I admit that, there are certain instances where I actually am in agreement with the ACLU and some of the things they do. But when they also support somebody who, has got a child pornography, fetish, and he loves 8-year-old boys or girls, I got a problem with that. And you lose credibility when you do that. They stand on the side of some really stupid stuff. They go too far over the line. Instead of standing up for the American civil liberties, they stand up for these crackpot left-wing nut jobs. The kid who says, I'm suing my school system for $10 million because they forced me to pledge allegiance to the nation where I live and have benefited, that kind of crap. But you don't see them stepping up on the side of right too often. But sometimes they do, and in this case they are. The problem is that they diminish their own impact. And they diminish their own value when they do it in conjunction with all the other crackpot things they do stand for. Now, if you think for a moment that this kind of information will only be used in the hands of law enforcement and only used for the benefit of the American people, I'm assuming that you're surviving and inhaling and exhaling pure unicorn olfactory wind. I'm trying to say this nicely. The problem is that America, for whatever reason, seems to be willing to accept the endless promises that things will be done for our benefit. When Edward Snowden, as an example, has dashed all of those promises to pieces with empirical proof. A lot of people suspected for a long time that that's what was happening. But they were always labeled as crackpots, tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorists. Those people that are way out there, they're not even in the same reality as us. They're fringe extremists. Well, there's a lot of people that are still saying that, despite the empirical proof that's everywhere. Don't let those people fool you into being complacent and acquiescing and accepting of this kind of, call it what you like, but I call it treason. When your government has a need to track you, you see, here's the problem, folks. You're going to try and tell me that to track 12 million illegal aliens, and they're not talking about all illegal aliens, they're only talking about those that are criminal illegal aliens, as if there's some differential between those who cross the border and those who cross the border and then committed crimes. You're both illegal. The question is, to what extent? But if you're going to try and tell me that, even if I take them at their word, that 12 million illegals warrants 315 million of us being monitored, I tell you that the risk far outweighs the reward. I mean, this is the same age-old argument we keep hearing over and over and over again. Because 12,000 people a year are killed with guns, that we should take guns away from everybody. That because, you see, you're not going to sit and try and tell me that penalizing the vast majority of America or stripping them of their constitutionally enumerated rights, and I say enumerated because they're not granted to you by the Constitution, they're granted to you by God. And you had them long before the Constitution or even paper existed. But to sit and tell me that we're going to strip away Americans' rights to privacy and, I mean, who wants untracked travel? I don't want somebody in some government agency knowing everywhere I go. It's none of their business. And I guarantee you, just like it's always been throughout all of known history, that people who have access to enormous amounts of information will abuse it. Period. End of argument. They will abuse this, like they have abused everything else. Don't tell me that they haven't abused everything else. If they haven't, why is there a main core database with the names of, at last count, back in 2009, over 8 million Americans? Do the math on that, ladies and gentlemen. If you take 8 million Americans and you say, okay, let's take out of the 312 million population that we have, let's take the elderly who are, not capable of creating some kind of a terroristic act, and we take the children out of the mix. What do we have left? I don't know, 200 million people? So now, if you take 8 million out of that group, that's a very significant, and that was before Obama became president. Now, looking at his track record of utilizing the IRS as a weapon of mass destruction against the entire nation and all of his enemies, I can't imagine that list is still a static 8 million people. We're talking somewhere between 3 and 7 to 10% of America is in a database that is set up for one exclusive reason. In the event of a national emergency, these people can be grabbed off the street because they will be the leaders of the dissidents. Wow. And now you want to give them the ability to track your car? The insanity of all of this. And the mindless agreement and acquiescence by most Americans is what I find the most fearful about the whole thing. The blind acceptance that government will only do what's in your best interest, when all of the evidence is weighing on the other side, I find that incomprehensible. I don't care what side of the ideological fence you stand on. I don't care whether you're a liberal or a conservative. I don't care whether you're agnostic. The simple truth is, you wouldn't trust someone who has consistently shafted you over and over and over and over and over again, someone that was your friend. Why would you trust a nameless, faceless group of unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats that have already shown they don't have your best interest at heart? And when we get into administrative agencies in our next segment, I'm going to explain to you a major fact that you don't know. These millions of maggots who make up these administrative agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security, none of them take an oath to the Constitution. None of them. They don't take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, nor protect you. That means that they don't have to be loyal to you. They don't have to do what's in the best interest of the nation. They only have to do in the best interest of themselves, or what's in the best interest of themselves. This big brother thing that is going on around us should be a klaxon of warning. And yet, I was watching a thing the other night on, I think it was O'Reilly, and he was talking about this test that was taken, or it was a civics test that immigrants must take when they come into the United States. And, I mean, the numbers were just stunning to me. I think it was 46% of Americans that took this test did not know that capitalism is our economic foundation. Huh? How can that be possible? Half the country doesn't know that the nation's economy is based on capitalism? I mean, where do you work? I don't get it. How can that possibly be? I mean, that's so far beyond the scope of reality. When I hear something like that, I'm like, you must live in some kind of a cloistered, nut house or something. I don't understand it. How can that possibly be? How can Americans be so uncognizant of their surroundings? 25% couldn't name the vice president. This is the most publicized vice president in my memory. I mean, there's been no other vice president that has gotten the kind of press and the kind of FaceTime on cameras that Joe Biden has got. None. How is it that people don't know his name and don't know the role he plays? I'm stunned. But that tells you something. If 46% of America doesn't know that this is capitalism, you can take that 40%, 46%, and you can take them right off the top. Those will be the 46% that will be stumbling around, completely clueless and inept and impotent in the event of a national crisis of any sort. That'll be the 46% that'll be wandering around, dying like cattle. The other 54% will be in databases, waiting to be scoffed up. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about administrative agencies and how they have become the cancer that is metastasized throughout our entire system. And I'm going to draw the analogy for you that to remove them at this point would be like having to remove the internal organs of the body in order to try to save it. Because they're so embedded at this point that they have, like a cancer, metastasized into the very bones and the very organs of the body of our nation. That's scary. Please make sure that you visit and support our sponsors. There's a couple of them out there that are local here, and then there's a couple that are national in scope. Our Express Mini Marts 1 and 2, one on 14 and 63, and one across from the City Pool in People's Park and on Porter Wagoner Boulevard in the city of West Plains. Express Mini Marts 1 and 2. They have a great drive-through, so you don't even have to get out of your car when this weather is so awful. They have pretty much the best fountain drink prices that you can get in the community, and they are the lowest. They offer a 100% guaranteed lowest prices on tobacco products. So if you're up for either of those, by all means, beat your feet down there and take advantage of that. Our friends over at the battery station, they handle virtually every kind of product that would be interesting to anyone in the law enforcement or public services community, where they handle batteries and flashlights and all that kind of thing. They also have a lot of other gear that you should be aware of. And they are the sponsors and the purveyors of our co-op, our food co-op, and we'll touch on that before the end of today. You can find them at batterystation.com, and you can also get a hold of them by phone at 417-257-7799. Our friends at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. Today is Tuesday, and that means that they are today is reduced price lunch day. And then tonight is family night, and kids under 12 eat free. So make sure that you get down there, and make sure that while you're there you mentioned America's Voice Now and the fact that you heard about them on our program. Jason Henry, a lawyer in town, handles both state and federal criminal and civil issues. You can get a hold of him at 417-256-4100. I hope that you don't need his services, but if you do, he's the guy for you. 417-256-4100. Wits End Classic Barbershop, located on the square in West Plains at 417-372-2027, and also Patriot Cigar and Tobacco Shop. Make sure that you visit all of those folks and let them know that you heard about them right here at America's Voice Now. You can also find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org, and you can email me personally at mike@americasvoicenow.org. Look forward to hearing from you. It's important that we get feedback from you. We're going to take this administrative agency issue to task right after this break. Hang on, we'll be right back.
It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. We're in our third segment of 4 this morning. If you're joining us just now, appreciate your attendance. Thanks very much. If you're streaming live on our website, I'm glad to have you on board. If you are capturing us on Patriot FB and our streaming program there, we're glad to have you. If you're catching us live or catching us on Rooster Radio, Big Country 99.3, just for the record, this is pre-recorded for you folks, so our phone lines aren't open for you to call, but, well, we'll try to resolve that at some point in the future and be able to figure out a way to do live broadcasting for you. But, of course, it's at midnight to 2, and I'm in bed at that time because I'm getting up in 2 hours to do the program for you in the morning. So, I want to talk a little bit about this administrative agency thing, because the problem is that we are inundated with tidal waves of administrative agency law. And the Constitution is expressly and explicitly clear about the fact that no law can be passed that does not come from Congress itself. Now, the traitors in Congress have, for all intents and purposes, given themselves the opportunity to pass that particular duty on to administrative agencies. But we have never given Congress the authority to pass their limited power of attorney authorization on and to subdelegate it to unelected, unaccountable, nameless, faceless, self-serving maggots in 1,000 agencies. That's harsh. Good. I mean it to be. There is not an administrative agency in the nation, with the exception of 2, that has any constitutional authority or legality for its existence. There is no constitutional basis for the existence of any of the alphabet soup agencies. The only 2 that have authority to exist are Border Patrol and Commerce. That's it. The FAA, the FCC, the ATF, the CIA, the NSA, you can just go on and on and on and on and on. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the FEC, the FDA, the FTC, none of them, the SEC, none of them have constitutional authority to exist. I'm not saying that they don't have a job function that we can find valuable. I'm saying that they have zero constitutional basis for existence and therefore cannot pass rules and regulations that parade about as law. Only Congress can do that. But Congress has subdelegated their implied authority onto a group of maggots. And in case you didn't know it, the millions of teeming maggots who work for the administrative agencies, they don't take an oath to uphold and defend and protect the Constitution of the United States of America as the law of the land. kind of interesting because if they were to do that, it would be a declaration of the fact that they have violated the same law that they're swearing to uphold. You know, when you look back at the Declaration of Independence, one of the things that always stood out to me was the statement when they were proclaiming against King George that he has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. I cannot think of a more appropriate example of that than the metastasized cancer of administrative agencies. The problem that we have is that they pass literally untold numbers of, they call them rules and they call them regulations. But you can call them whatever they want. They parade as law and act as law, and they walk like a duck and they have webbed feet like a duck. They quack, they have a beak, they have feathers, their tail wiggles, and they lay eggs. And that makes them a duck. I don't care what you call them, but a rule and a regulation that are published in the Federal Register are law. When you run afoul, pun intended, of those particular laws, then you go before an administrative law judge. And this is interesting because you are guaranteed a right to a trial by jury by the Constitution. You're not granted it by the Constitution. You're guaranteed it by the Constitution. Yet when you run afoul of administrative agency law, you don't go before a judge and a jury of your peers. You go before an administrative law judge. And an administrative law judge, one, works for the agency which you're in contention with. So right off the bat, you've got a major conflict of interest. How can a judge be objective when he works for the agency which he's going to have to rule against? Secondarily, you don't have an opportunity in many cases to even appeal his or her ruling. Moreover, when you can appeal that, the cost is so exorbitant that it's basically, this is where we start to rule now by the concept that we can beat you to death by a money attrition. You lose by attrition because you don't have the resources to go out there and try to appeal this up above the line and go to federal court and so forth and so on. You have state agencies, by the way, that operate the same way. And the minions and the maggots within state agencies are no different than those in federal. They also have no legal justification for existence. So I don't want to seem biased here. I want to let you know that I hate maggots of all shapes, sizes, and colors. And you should too. Because they are the undoing of our nation. See, these rules and these regulations, when they are passed, they cost us not just our freedom and our liberty, not just our dignity, not just our ability to live and prosper, but they cost us something even far greater than that. They're costing us our entire, or the principle of our entire nation. See, we've lost the idea that we are self-governing. We don't believe in self-governance anymore. Now we believe in being told what to do by a group of maggots. Maggots. Teeming, squirming, writhing, wriggling maggots. Millions of them. And they tell you what to eat. They tell you what you can do with your property. They tell you where you can work and how you can work and under what circumstances you can work. And they limit your opportunities and they restrict your ability to function. You run afoul of them 3 or 4 times a day before you've even finished your breakfast. Some of them are so onerous that, for all intents and purposes, they're destroying our economy. I mean, it's estimated at this point that it costs our economy $1 trillion a year just to be in cooperation and in compliance. Well, the whole global domestic product is only 16 trillion, folks. That means that we're spending 1 trillion or 1/16 of our economy playing around trying to meet the demands of maggots. You know what happens when maggots grow old? They turn into flies, and they carry disease. And in this case, we've got administrative agencies that have metastasized like a cancer. And they started out as this tiny little nodule that was a few molecules in size. Just a couple of random cells that went awry. But they grow and grow and grow. And then soon they break off and they attach themselves to another organ. And they corrupt that organ. And before you know it, it's in your bones. And it's in your spine. And it's attached itself to your liver and your kidneys and your heart and your mind. And now, the body is almost dead from the succubus host. You understand? These administrative agencies are drawing the very life away of our nation. The truth is, they have their own rules and regulations. The truth is that they have their... And by the way, their rules and regulations prohibit you from taking action against them. I mean, they've got immunity and impunity from prosecution for their crimes. And mark my words, crimes they are. But there's nothing that you can do about them. The truth is that they operate independent of the president. They operate independent of Congress. They operate independent of the judiciary. If you disagree with their rulings, you have to expend an enormous amount of money, resources, time. And the truth of the matter is, you very, very rarely win. In 2013, these agencies added an estimated 157.9 million hours of paperwork just for compliance. Add that to the 80,224 pages of new regulations that were added in the Federal Register, and you see the scope of the problem. They're building and developing every day. They are adding more molecules to their own cancerous lump. The cumulative number of hours that is spent on regulatory paperwork, this is just to meet the demands of the the teeming maggots was 10.38 billion hours. I mean, just look at what a succubus that is. You know what a succubus is? It's an entity that attaches itself to a host, and it draws the very life from that host till it destroys it. The estimate in order to meet these requirements is that it takes about 78,000 people working full-time, doing nothing, full-time jobs, completing paperwork. I mean, come on, folks. And they're instituting things which are destroying us. All of these regulations about climate change, which, the president would have you believe that this is settled, that this is science, that it's empirical. Nothing could be further from the truth. And yet, the EPA is out there acting as if this is settled science, as if this is factual. And they're making changes that are affecting you and affecting the industry that you work for and affecting the industries that affect us all and affect the number of jobs that are available to Americans. They're restricting the number of jobs that are available to Americans because we're all so busy running around trying to meet the requirements of some maggot that we're not focused on what we ought to be doing. Producing our core competency, whatever that may be. Whether that's manufacturing shoe leather or building a car or producing a product. Meanwhile, they're shutting down the coal plants left and right, and they're instituting brand new rules that will make coal and energy production impossible in the United States. The new coal scrubbing requirements that the EPA is instituting, by their own admission, will force electricity prices to jump 80%. Oh, guess what? That's only at the wholesale level. So what do you think your price is going to do? Now, listen, I'm all for clean environment. But to sit here and try and tell me that you're going to take all the coal plants that produce electricity in the United States, which is the vast majority of how we generate electricity, and without a solution in place to replace it with something more cost-effective or less damaging to the environment, you're going to just remove it, is suicidal. But the agencies are hard at work. And they're working fast and furiously, no pun intended, to destroy this country from the inside out. Not because they perceive it as destroying this country from the inside out. They are so wrapped up in their own extremist mentality that this shutting down this one plant will save the planet. While meanwhile, the three largest carbon-producing nations, which are not the United States, are generating and producing these same coal plants 5 times at the rate for every one we shut down. So what exactly is the point? See, the problem, if you're going to sit here and say that we've got to clean the planet, that's fine. But if what you're saying is that we're going to reduce our consumption while necessarily forcing and skyrocketing our own electricity prices and shorting ourselves out of the one thing that basically makes our entire planet function and operate, then you're going to sit there and tell me that you're not going to make, or that other countries are not going to cooperate. This is a unilateral action which serves no purpose. None whatsoever. But they don't care. They don't care because administrative agencies do only one thing. They grow, and as a result of their growth, they destroy. Just like a cancer. And the only way to eliminate them is to cut them out. Unfortunately, they're so deeply embedded at this point that to remove them may be very well the equivalent of killing the patient. Our body, our national body, is full of maggots. Millions upon millions of maggots. Consider this. 20% of the entire national workforce is employed by government. The vast majority of that are maggots. They don't produce anything. They don't function at all in any way, shape, or form other than to grow their own. That's all they do. Government doesn't produce anything. It doesn't offer any benefits to the community at large. They take. They don't enhance. So 20% of the nation's workforce are maggots. Welcome to the world of Lord of the Flies. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this article that I found this morning, which I'm really very, very interesting. That'll be our final episode or final segment for the morning. Stick with us. We'll be back in just a minute. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Please make sure that you follow our sponsors and you patronize them in an effort to keep this program on the air and thank them for their patriotic duty of sponsoring this program. You can find Battery Station at batterystation.com. You can also call them at 417-257-7799. Our friends at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard, make sure that you swing by there. And today is their reduced lunch day, and tonight is family night. Make sure that you take advantage of that. The law offices of Jason Henry in West Plains. He handles state and federal criminal and civil cases. 417-256-4100. Patriot Cigar and Tobacco Shop on the square in West Plains, where they've got pretty much everything for the smoker. You can reach them at 417-257-1776. Great phone number for a place named Patriot Cigar and Tobacco. Wits End Classic Barbershop, where you can swing in there and get yourself a great haircut and a old straight razor hot lather shave. Make sure that you take advantage of that. And our friends over at Express Mini Marts 1 and 2 in 14 and 63 at the junction there, and also across the street from the city pool in West Plains on People's Park. If you have an opportunity to, or you'd like to advertise with us, by all means, please feel free to do that. You can contact me at mike@americasvoicenow.org, and I'll be more than happy to talk with you about either something local or a local sponsorship on one of our terrestrial radio programs or here across the board. In addition to that, if you're interested in having a website built for your business, or you'd like some additional work done on the internet regarding marketing and services, then by all means jump over to airbridgeweb.com. That's airbridgeweb.com, or you can call 417-204-4064. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to grab our last segment of the morning, and that is America's Unraveling. America, it's time to prepare yourself. We'll be right back. All right. We're back. You know, I've been getting a lot of requests lately to break the show into the 4 segments that I used to upload on YouTube, predominantly because it's easier for people to find the specific segment that they want. And I appreciate and understand that. So we're gonna try to start doing that again. But I'm vastly understaffed and vastly undermanned and vastly underfunded. And so it's very difficult for us to do some of the things that you guys want us to do. I'll work at this. Just recognize that it takes a lot of technical. It takes a lot of technology to do some of the things that we want to do, and all of that costs money, and we're limited in that. If there's any way that you can help us and assist us in our efforts and our programming, please feel free to make a donation to americasvoicenow.org. You can jump on there and make a donation through PayPal, or you can mail one to us. You can mail us payments at America's Voice Now, P.O. Box 1195, and that's in West Plains, Missouri, 65775. I don't often ask for money. I don't make that a ploy that I do, but we're constantly under. We're always at a loss. Let me put it to you that way, and a pretty significant one. So if there's anything that you can do to help us, if you gain some value from this program, if you feel that at the end of the day that you've learned something from it, then please help us to continue to spread the word to others. There's an article out this morning which I posted up on America's Voice Now and Patriot FB, and also our Facebook page at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And it's called The United States of Decline. And I got to tell you, it's a very, very interesting article. I'm going to just take a couple of minutes, and it's not that long. I'm just going to run through it because I think at the end of the day you'll benefit from it. And I don't know if everybody has the opportunity to read it, and then we can just kind of jump on it. America is unraveling at a stunning speed and to a staggering degree. This decline is breathtaking, and the prognosis is dim. For starters, Obama now rules by decree. Reportedly for the 27th time, he has changed the rules of Obamacare single-handedly, with neither congressional approval nor even ceremonial resolutions to limit his actions. Obama needs no such frivolities. That's the good thing about being president, he joked on February 10th. I can do whatever I want. In an especially bitter irony, Obama uttered these despicable words while guiding French President François Hollande through Monticello, the home of Thomas Jefferson, a key architect of America's foundation of limited government. That very day, Obama decreed that the Obamacare mandate for employers with 50 to 99 workers would be postponed until 2016, beyond an earlier extension to 2015, well past the November 2014 midterm elections. This eases the pressure on Democrats, whose campaigns would suffer if voters saw their company health plans canceled due to Obamacare's unnecessary expensive mandatory benefits, e.g. maternity coverage for men. So, by fiat, Obama has postponed the employer mandate. When Senator Ted Cruz, a Republican from Texas, effectively tried to do this through legislation last fall, Democrats virtually lassoed and branded him. Also by decree last week, Obama decided unilaterally to soften political asylum rules. Refugees and other immigrants who provide terrorists limited material support, quote unquote, now can come to America. So what if someone merely clothed and fed Muhammad Atta or Khalid Sheikh Mohammed? After all, garments and meals don't blow up. Welcome to America, Mustafa. Meanwhile, the Justice Department is working hard to revoke the asylum of and deport the Romikis. This evangelical Christian family was granted refuge in America to escape prosecution for homeschooling their children, which German law forbids. So Obama believes those who are only somewhat helpful to deadly anti-U.S. terrorists may become Americans, while religiously oppressed homeschoolers who face prison should get the hell out. The transparent electoral motive that fuels so many of Obama's executive orders seems unprecedented. The tone is also brand new. Obama's predecessors have signed executive orders and more or less left it at that. But Obama pounds his chest as he does so. As he told Congress at last month's State of the Union address, America does not stand still, and neither will I. So wherever and whenever I can take steps without legislation to expand opportunity for more American families, that's what I'm going to do, end quote. While appalled Republicans sat on their hands, Democrats stood up and shouted, like equatorial rubber stamp parliamentarians. Hooray, we are irrelevant. Chilling. Meanwhile, as the American Enterprise Institute's Mark Treason wrote in the February 10th Washington Post, new Congressional Budget Office figures show that Obamacare will reduce UN incomes by $70 billion annually between 2017 and 2024. The CBO also estimated that by 2021, Obamacare disincentives to hire and incentives not to work would slash labor hours by the equivalent of 2.3 million jobs. Rather than dispute these figures, key Democrats embraced them. Quote, "We want people to have the freedom to be a writer, to be a photographer, to make music, to paint," said House Democrat leader Nancy Pelosi of California. She added that, quote, "people would no longer be job locked by the company's health policies, but have the freedom to follow their passion," end quote. So rather than expand economic growth and jobs, Democrats are applauding as Americans stop working to do watercolor, draft poetry, and take naps, while exhausted taxpayers foot the bill. Clearly unafraid of Obama, Iranian warships, for the first time, are steaming towards America's Atlantic maritime borders. Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy Commander Ali Fayadi says, quote, "The Americans can sense by all means how their warships will be sunk with 5,000 crew and forces in combat against Iran, and how they should find its hulk in the depths of the sea," end quote. Tehran last week also aired fantasy videos of drones blasting a U.S. warship and bombing Tel Aviv. This is how Iran behaves when it negotiates with U.S. diplomats over peaceful uranium enrichment. Nearby, embattled Syrians flee the city of Ham while they and their United Nations protectors dodge incoming mortar shells. This sorry spectacle has exposed Obama's Syrian policy as a miserable flop. So does the fact that Syrian President Bashar Assad has handed over only 4% of the chemical weapons that his deal last September with Obama and Vladimir Putin was supposed to neutralize. According to GOP Senators John McCain of Arizona and Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, Secretary of State John Kerry privately conceded to them that Obama's approach in Syria has failed. America liberated Afghanistan from a regime that hosted al-Qaeda, banned kites and recorded music, and built a bridge to the 7th century. And what thanks does the U.S. get? Over American objections, Afghan President Hamid Karzai last week released 65 Taliban warriors from Bagram prison, where they were being held on suspicion of killing American troops, murdering Afghan civilians, deploying roadside bombs, and otherwise perpetrating mayhem. When U.S. officials complained that these killers could return to the fight, as have other Taliban thugs once they were freed, Karzai exploded. Quote, "If the Afghan judicial authorities decide to release a prisoner, it is of no concern to the U.S. I hope that the U.S. will stop harassing Afghans' procedures and judicial authority, and I hope the U.S. will now begin to respect Afghan sovereignty," end quote. For these and many other reasons, Democrats are fleeing Obama. "I don't care to have him campaign for me," said Senator Mark Begich from Alaska. A re-election ad for Representative Joe Garcia from Florida boasts that, quote, "he voted to let you keep your existing health plan, and he took the White House to task for the disastrous health care website." He, Obama, is hurting the Democratic brand right now. Veteran Democratic campaign strategist Joe Tippie says to Fox News, "The Obamacare snafus, his approval rating is declining, and his credibility problems all drag the Democratic Party down. Rather than resist an increasingly weak yet ever more assertive Obama, GOP congressional leaders hand him whatever he wants. Thus, House Speaker John Boehner and Senate GOP Chief Mitch McConnell of Kentucky pushed through a $1 trillion budget with at best minuscule and illusory spending cuts. A $956 billion farm bill includes $3 million to promote Christmas trees. Who on earth would buy such a thing without federal assistance? $100 million for maple syrup market research, and $170 million for catfish protectionism. Boehner and McConnell sent Obama this gift-wrap monstrosity, which was $56 billion higher than Obama's original requested price tag. And in exchange, Obama gave them zip. On February 12th, Boehner and McConnell helped send Obama a measure to suspend the debt limit until March 15th, 2015. This debt ceiling was not raised from $17.2 trillion to a higher level. It was simply removed. The gas pedal remains in Obama's little red Corvette, but the brakes are gone. This passed the GOP House with Boehner and only 27 Republicans voting yes. The other 194 votes were from Democrats. When McConnell surrendered on cloture, 11 other Republican senators helped Democrats advance their dirty work. And the debt ceiling is now a debt sunroof. And what did Washington's top two Republicans get for giving Obama 13 months to shop till America drops? Absolutely nothing. No repeal of Obamacare's $47 billion bailout of health insurers. No approval of the Keystone Pipeline. No termination of the cure-killing medical device tax. No votes on these matters, which would have forced Democrats to make a choice. This could have helped Republican candidates in November. Steely resolve could stymie the unpopular and untrustworthy Obama. Sadly, Boehner, McConnell, and other GOP leaders are as firm as foil. Republicans are giving up because they know that winning is impossible when their leaders are determined to lose, the Senate Conservatives Fund states. These leaders have telegraphed weakness to the Democrats and sabotaged conservative efforts so many times that Republicans now have no leverage. John Boehner must be replaced as Speaker of the House. Unless we install a new leader who will actually go on offense, Democrats will never fear us, and we will never have any leverage. In addition, the Earth's sole superpower is sagging where it should be number one. America has slouched to number 12 on the 2014 Heritage Foundation Wall Street Journal Index of Economic Freedom. Now considered only a mostly free economy, the U.S. has earned the dubious distinction of having recorded one of the longest sustained declines in economic freedom, seconded only by Argentina, of any country in the 20-year history of the index. The U.S. is the only country to have recorded a loss of economic freedom each of the past 7 years. Regarding graft, America has stayed stable in Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index. Unfortunately, and as recently as 2013, the U.S. has remained Earth's 19th most honest country. Thanks in part to Team Obama's surveillance of journalists from Fox News Channel and the Associated Press, America has tumbled 13 spots down the Reporters Without Borders World Press Freedom Index. The U.S. dropped this year from number 33 to number 46. Hence, 45 nations now have freer journalists than does America. RWB calls America satisfactory rather than top-rated good. As the report states, quote, amid an all-out hunt for leaks and sources, 2013 will also be the year of the Associated Press scandal, which came to light when Department of Justice acknowledged that it had seized the news agency's phone records. End quote. America is a total mess. The land of the free is governed by an out-of-control egomaniac, neither bolstered by managerial competence nor hindered by the legislature's institutional prerogatives. In the home of the brave, half of Congress cheers Obama's unconstitutional behavior, while the other half grumbles and then meekly carpet bombs his path with white flags. The American people have been betrayed, both by Obama and the Democrats, whose lust for control intensifies daily, and by Republican leaders in Washington, whose cowardice and defeatism have turned their guts and spines into tapioca. America, as Paul Simon sings, is slip-sliding away. And the worst part hasn't happened yet. That article was written by DeRoy Murdoch. He's a Fox News contributor and a media fellow at the Hoover Institution on War, Revolution, and Peace in Stanford University. Posted that up on all of the appropriate locations so that you could find it and read it yourself. But I got to tell you, these are the same issues in large part, but in summation, which I've been talking about for quite some time now. We have a nation completely out of control. I was stunned at the President's State of the Union address to see Democrats and Republicans stand and applaud the President's statement that they were irrelevant. My goodness, what have we become? The amazing aspect of that is these people were literally applauding their own obsolescence. The President is stating emphatically and unequivocally that he intends to operate and make law without them. And they were applauding him. One is left to wonder exactly what is it that has fostered these people to do what's being done. I mean, John Boehner on amnesty is a perfect example. Here he is pushing this concept of immigration amnesty. The entire nation only believes, somewhere between 3 and 10% of us, that it's important. Because what the other 90% of us are worried about is jobs. And the speaker has to actually be grilled by his own party about his intentions and the national policy that he's promoting. My goodness, things are awful fishy. Let's just face the facts. Boehner has been corrupted as the speaker since day one. He blocks bills against the administration's abuses. He plays politics with your life, your liberty, and our collective freedom. And now he's planning on making immigration happen despite his own policy's desire and the clamor of the nation. In policy polls, only 3 to 5% of the country thinks immigration's important. So why, John? Why, Mr. Boehner? What do they have on you? You, Mitch McConnell, what have they got on you? All of you in the House, Cantor, all of you alleged leaders, what do they have on you? Don't have anything on you? Then what have they promised you? What is so monstrous about you? Or what is so valuable that the entire lot of you would betray your nation to keep it secret or to get whatever that promise is? The truth is, this has been going on for a long time. But it's reached a level now where it can't even be hidden. It can't be pretended as if it's not happening. I mean, at least they were somewhat subtle about it before. Now, they're in open revolt against the truth. No one can explain their behavior. No one can explain their actions. They have no justification for it. I mean, Mitch McConnell came out the other day and he said, "It's my job to protect the country," when he was asked about the vote that he made to increase the debt limit. That's what he said. It's my job to protect the country. Well, if that's the truth, Mitch, then I guess we just better face it. You're inept, you're malfeasant, you're corrupt, you're impotent, and you're a damn fool. Because you did anything but protect the country. I mean, you got to be kidding me. That's your defensive posture for having given Obama a blank check from now till March of 2015. You didn't say, Mr. President, we're going to give you authority to borrow an additional $1 trillion. You didn't say, we're going to give you the authority to borrow an additional $1.3 trillion. You just said, why don't we just roll the roof back and make this into a convertible? There's no ceiling. You can borrow as much as you feel you need, Mr. President, and you can borrow as much as you feel you need to accomplish your agenda, which I stand publicly against. But as soon as the doors are closed, I applaud you, give you a great big hug and a nice wet kiss on the cheek. You got to be kidding me. My job is to protect the country when I can, and to step up and lead on those occasions when it's required. That's what I did, says Mitch. If you call that leadership, sir, then I'm telling you that the blind are truly leading the blind. So what's America to do? Well, here's what I would do. In fact, here's what I am doing. I would make sure that I was preparing myself and my family for the inevitable crises. And I say crises because it's not going to be one, that are coming down the pike. There is an economic bubble that is building in this country, and when it pops, it's going to make 2008 look like it was a basic walk in the park. We are already under a terrible, terrible police state that hasn't even been announced yet by the mainstream Ministry of Propaganda. And when you see that thing burgeon into full maturity and blossom, you're going to be amazed at the blood on that rose. You can do that by making sure that you're preparing yourself and your family. One, economically. And the best way you can do that economically is not to stock up money, not to take your money out of the bank. If you're going to take it out of the bank, then use it to do something constructive. Buy yourself a boatload of food. Buy yourself a boatload of ammunition, and buy yourself a boatload of medical supplies. That, ladies and gentlemen, will be the new currency of the new unrepublic of the United States of America. That may sound like a dire warning to you. Good. I hope you take it as such. Because what we're getting ready to see in this country, and I don't believe is stoppable, is an economic collapse followed by a totalitarian clenching of the fist of tyranny like the world has never seen. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm here with you Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9:45 a.m. every day. If you're listening to us on Big Country 99, thanks very much for joining us. This is a recorded program for Big Country 99. We stream our show live on our website every day at americasvoicenow.org. We also stream it live on audio on Patriot FB, and I encourage you to go over to Patriot FB and visit not only with America's Voice Now, but all of our other radio hosts over there, including Resurrect the Republic that plays at 10 o'clock, J.J. McCartney and his excellent program, Cowboy Logic, it runs on Tuesdays, and Midnight Patriot with Jeff Norton that runs also every night from 9 to midnight. Okay, find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org. You can also find our Facebook page at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. You can find everything that we do on YouTube, where we put up every program that we do in video up there, as well as audio clips. You can also catch everything live on our website. If there's any way that you can support us, please feel free to do so. We greatly appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. We will be back tomorrow morning with more enlightenment. And our goal is to educate and inform, to motivate and activate. Sometimes you don't like the message, but please don't throw away the message because you don't like the delivery guy. It's still a message of truth. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning.